Every year, around 1,200 young Australians, aged between 15 and 25, will have their lives turned upside down by these words: "I'm sorry, you've got cancer." Now, cancer isn't concerned with whether you've just graduated from university and you're about to travel the world with your friends, or the ATAR that you have worked so hard to achieve gets you into the course in university. It stops these young lives dead in their tracks. However, as often happens with adversity, you find courage. And what happens next for these young people and their families will take all of the courage that they can muster. Opportunity often comes from adversity. And as these young people begin to experience maybe some of the things that they've read on the TV or they've listened to online become real for them, the reality sets in. And they have a wake-up moment. And that reality for our family, that wake-up moment for our family came when we realised that the drugs we were relying on to save our son's life had been developed in the 50s and the 60s for adults. And directly as a result of those treatments, 1 in 3 young people with cancer will get a second cancer. Over 95% of them will have some serious health condition by the time they're 50. And 1 in 5 won't actually survive to see their own children finish high school. Now, this just did not make sense. You know, in 1960s, we put a man on the moon. Today, we're talking about space tourism. And yet, we really haven't been able to do any better for young people with cancer. So where does genomics fit in? Genomics offers families like ours and other families hope. Just like we've seen genomics have huge impact in us being able to fight COVID-19, we use genomic sequencing to identify variants in the virus, and we can target vaccines to that. It works the principle's the same in cancer. We use the sequencing to identify targeted treatments. It can help us refine the diagnosis and so tailor the treatments once again. And it can open up opportunities in clinical trials and things like that for these young people. However, unfortunately, despite the power of this technology, it's not actually available to young people routinely, young people with cancer. And if you're a young person with cancer, you can only actually access genomic sequencing as part of a research project or a clinical trial. Now, to be eligible for a project or a trial, young people with cancer are eligible when all of the standard treatment options have failed. And that often comes after years of surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. And one of the criteria is that you've got less than 30% chance of survival. Now again, to families like ours, that does not make sense. Why wait? Why offer this really powerful technology when the life raft is sinking and you're bailing out the water? So we have a vision. And we want genomic sequencing to be delivered slightly different to young people with cancer in Australia. We want it to be offered routinely. We want it to be seen not just as a test to answer some point-in-time questions. We want it to be used to equip these young people for life. And there are 3 parts to that. The first part is upfront sequencing for everyone. No conditions, no exclusions, no criteria, just standard of care. Because of the importance and the significance that the information of the sequencing can have on tailoring their treatment so it is more effective and it will lead to less lifelong side effects. The second part of what we what our vision is that we want young people to have the choice to donate their personal and their genomic information to a research library. Now, currently, when you're enrolled or you sign up for a clinical trial or a research project, you give your information to the project. And you give it to answer a few specific research questions. Now, for us, that is far too limiting. Why are we only targeting using this really powerful information within such a narrow scope? The second thing about research projects and trials is they are time limited. So we have a group of young people who will have ongoing life issues as a result of their treatment. And yet when you donate to a project or you give your information to a project or a trial, you have no way of tracking where that information goes. What happens when the trial stops? What happens when the interests of the researchers have changed? Your information is sitting there someplace. Incredibly powerful information that could be reanalyzed to help yourself or be used to fuel more research into this really important life-saving area. So imagine a library. Imagine every young person having the choice to make an information donation. And they donate to the greater good. So they donate to a library of information which makes it really straightforward for them to come back and access the information at any point in their life when they need it. It's a library which is open, de-identified, anonymized information is open to researchers around the world. You know, clinicians, researchers, biotech people, companies that are interested in artificial intelligence, the volume of data is enormous. To come into this library and have a look around, you know? Develop research questions. So we answer questions that would have never been asked had the information not been available. Build on your own research. Add more participants to perhaps a study that you already have underway. Something like a research library has the power to accelerate scientific discovery. And as I said right at the beginning, scientific discovery is too slow for a group of people who have so much to gain. The third thing, which we think is important for equipping young people with cancer for life, is cancer diagnosis when you're a young person between 15 to 25 is absolutely devastating. It's isolating. It is a lonely path. And we believe it can be made less daunting by providing young people with cancer access to a youth mentor. A young person who has had this experience and has rebuilt their lives. To be there just for them when they need it and help them deal with these challenges that we know that they're going to face as they happen. Now, the innovation in what we are proposing doesn't just lie with the research library. That's important. You know, the questions that we ask that would have never been asked, that will lead to innovation, that will lead to new scientific discoveries, and that is fantastic. And that's definitely what we need. But the innovation in what we're actually proposing, what we're doing, is by giving young people the choice. So asking them up front, how do you want your information to be used? What do you want it to be used for? What impact do you want to have for yourself and for other young people who may come in the future and have to face the same terrible news as you've had to face? So the innovation is the approach. It's putting young people front and center. And that really is quite innovative when we're working in a kind of a science or research development environment. So I've spoken about genomics. I've given a little bit of an explanation as to the impact that it can have and how this group of young people have so much to gain from it. What I'm really pleased to say is there is more than hope. And through the determination of young people and families, just like yourselves, clinicians, researchers, We've actually been able to make this happen for young people with cancer who are treated at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. So the generous donation of people and their time, their skills, their sponsorship. Every young person going through the Princess Alexandra Hospital this year will receive those 3 things. They'll get upfront sequencing, as I've said, no questions, no delays, no exclusions, just standard of care. That has the potential to change their life and the life of the young people coming through. They get the opportunity to donate to a research library. And a research library may seem like common sense, but it doesn't actually exist anywhere in Australia today. They get a mentor. They get connected with someone who will make this journey just slightly more bearable for them. But importantly, it's more than this. What these young people are doing are leading the discovery of better cancer treatments by opening up their information to the next generation, of health professionals, nurses, doctors, scientists, biotech people. They developed a resource, a library, and they're inviting people in to look at this information, to invest their passion, their intellect, and their skills, and to change the future for these young people with cancer. So, on behalf of young people and their families with cancer, dealing with cancer, thank you for listening.